It has been quite some time since I did a video tour of my garden, so I thought I'd try to do a quick one now. In front of us we see a female tall meadow rue in full flower. The flowers are pollinated. You can see that the female flowers are starting to darken. That indicates that these guys are developing some seeds in there. Not a lot is in bloom right now, but one of the things that is really spectacular is my patch of sundrops. Last year it was so dry that these sundrops barely survived the season, but this year they are simply magnificent. In the front down here I have some hairy beard tongue, which is quickly becoming one of my top 10 favorite plants. And beside it, almost finished blooming, is some common groundsel. And over here, my pearly everlasting is looking very bedraggled after the caterpillar's finished with it, but it won't be long till it starts to send up some flowers. And then new to me last summer, and this is the first time I've seen it bloom, is downy woodmint. And I am really liking this plant. It is growing here beside my smooth wild rose, and it just keeps on blooming. It's been blooming for a couple of weeks now. I'm really impressed with it. Move over into the shade, and because it's so moist this year, this is looking much more lush than it did last year. I've got a few bare patches still that I need to find something to fill in. But for the most part, I'm getting a nice understory of ferns and wood poppies and a few other things. In the back here, I still have a big dead space that I can get very little to grow in. I tried planting bracken fern and some Canada anemone this year with the hopes that at least they will do well in that spot. And it's just right there, this one area, and I've tried many different species in there with no success, or very little success. I'm wondering if there's something in the soil. And then quick gander around, everything looking very lush this year. My wood lily here is just about finished. I get one plant each year that sends up. Sometimes I've had as many as 3 flowers. This year there's just one. And over here at the waterfalls, I have a few blue flag iris still putting on the last bit of a show. And my green dragon, Aeracena dracontium, flowered this year. Looked great, but unfortunately no seeds. Some bearberry that is nicely covering the rocks here. This is about 10 years old. That patch of bearberry started from a single plant, now cascading down over the edge. And my harebells are finally blooming. My little bog garden got more or less cleaned out last fall and moved all the big overly aggressive plants out of here into my new wetland, and I have yet to start repopulating the bog garden. And this garden was new a year and a half ago. I have a variety of very tall plants, and in amongst them I've got some Michigan lily that has some buds forming. And over here I have a red Canada lily that also has some flowers forming. Tucked down here beside the blue stem goldenrod in the shade here is the other shade lover, my poke milkweed, which has gorgeous white flowers and it's doing quite nice. And this is the new wetland I built. It'll take a couple of years for this to fill in, but it's starting to thicken up already. My ostrich ferns underneath my redbud tree. Over here is a nice lovely lady fern. And just a variety of things growing along here. I put in this trellis this summer to allow my glaucus honeysuckle to grow up and over it. It's looking kind of ratty now because the honeysuckle was well established, hanging over trees and everything else before, so we did a bit of damage moving it, but it'll come back next year. And then I created this new little path where I have some true Solomon seal and some bellwort planted in here, some early meadow rue, and then of course my huge patch of yellow jewelweed, all volunteers from the original few plants that I had in this garden. Oh, and I'll step back. I have lots of volunteer jack-in-the-pulpits around here. My red osier dogwood has finished blooming and is starting to set fruit. Not seeing any at the moment. Oh, there's a few in there. No color to them yet. And my black cohosh has got some flower buds coming. This is the male tall meadow rue, and this one is a male purple meadow rue, and it finishes blooming before the tall does. And tucked back in here, a few other things, some large leaf aster, more jack-in-the-pulpit, this one going to seed nicely, bottle gentian there, lots of blue lobelia, all from the original two plants. And then the garden over here, which is where my infamous Canada lily is. Haven't measured it yet today, but it's getting pretty close to the 7-foot mark. And I counted at least 177 flower buds in that clump of plants the other day. And there's probably more by now. A volunteer elderberry. And then over here, my land of giants. This is oxeye or false sunflower and green-headed coneflower. Back in there is some cup plant. And away over at the far side over there is wingstem. So these will all get huge. And in the front, got a lot of evening primrose, which I've just allowed to grow because I think they're quite lovely. Mixed in it with is some bee balm. This was a garden I was going to rip out this year because last year the bee balm barely hung on, but I just didn't get around to it, and I'm glad I didn't because it's looking nice so far. And I've got a bumper crop of flowers in my purple flowering raspberry. This is the nicest I've ever seen it. It's doing really great. And for those of you who wonder about tulip trees in your yard, this tulip tree, you can see the size of it here. This tree is only 20 years old. Now it's probably ideal conditions, but it is full of blooms every year and it's quite large. And I think that's it for today's tour. Got a garden tour coming up. Hopefully I'll have a chance to get things looking good by then. All right, and hope you enjoyed the video.